So guess what we're talking about today? It's celery.
Yeah.
Yes, and we think this is an undervalued food. And as we had some in our smoothie this morning, I put a photo of that on Facebook and on my Instagram page. I did a bit of a nutrient analysis just to have a quick look at what's in this one. For 2 stalks, we actually shared this. It was a stalk each. But if I had 2 stalks of celery, I would get some of all my B vitamins apart from B12. I would get a decent amount of vitamin A, or beta carotene anyway, vitamin K. But the interesting thing is probably the minerals. I would get for 2 stalks 5% of my calcium, which I think is pretty good for something that seems so full of water, according to what most people think. The interesting bits, though, are the potassium. 6% of my potassium versus 4% of my sodium. And in a minute, I'm going to ask Graham to expand on that a bit, because that has clear implications for blood pressure. But just to want to mention one other thing, again, it's a plant food that has some of all the essential amino acids. So there's protein in celery. It's not the flimsy food a lot of people think it is. So can we go back to you about, can I just start and ask you about the sodium and potassium?
Yeah. So sodium and potassium kind of balance each other out in the body. So if you have too much sodium in your diet and too little potassium, it can actually put your blood pressure up and also cause other problems related to electrolyte balance. So in the celery, because it's high potassium, but also has a decent amount of sodium in, it provides kind of the benefits of both, and it does balance things out like blood pressure. So sodium's a really, really important mineral. We've started to kind of, it's one of those things that gets demonized a little bit, because sodium we relate to salt, and too much sodium in the diet is bad for you because it can put up your blood pressure. The sodium you get in kind of natural vegetables and whole foods, generally fruits and vegetables, they always have potassium in, and it balances out nicely, and celery is a good example of that. So a good source of sodium, not too much to put your blood pressure up. The balance of electrolytes in general means your blood pressure is actually maintained and can actually even be potentially reduced when eating celery. So if that all makes sense, then I think it's really worth bearing in mind. The other thing that Annette mentioned as well is that it's kind of very high water content, which, yeah, absolutely the case. We've probably all heard this, people say that celery, you actually burn up more calories eating it than you actually take in. That's actually, it's not strictly speaking true, but it is very low calorie, but it's also packed with nutrients. So does it actually matter if it doesn't have many calories? Because there's so much more to food than just calories. There's actually all the micronutrients. Vitamin K, Annette mentioned as well, really, really good source. I think it's something like 25% of your daily requirements of vitamin K in an average portion of celery. So that's fantastic as well.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
And so how do we use it? Well, we've already said we actually put it in the kale part of our smoothie, the green part, because it just gives it a little bit of extra saltiness and more nutrition, and the fluid's good in it too. Other than that, we tend to mostly use it in salads, just chopped up in salads. Sometimes if I like the idea of a very minor snack that's not going to fill me too much, then a stalk of celery does the trick. There are all sorts of ideas. We don't do anything wildly exciting with celery. We think it's good enough on its own.
There's one other thing I wanted to mention. I don't know if we mentioned vitamin C as well, but there's also a decent amount of vitamin C, again. And also, speaking of kind of nutrients, other than kind of vitamins and minerals, it's got antioxidants in it, which are, again, really important in mopping up those kind of free radicals that our body produces every day just in the normal course of living. But also, it's got 2 particular phytonutrients in. Those are kind of chemicals we find in plants, etc. One of them is called apigenin, the other one is called luteolin, and both of them have been researched for their potential anti-cancer properties. So again, you're getting so much more than just a bit of fibrous vegetable. Actually, just on the issue of fibre, it's also very rich in fibre as well, which is really, really important. It's actually insoluble fibre mostly, so it tends to kind of like pass through your body, but we need that as well because it helps to kind of bulk things up, and also helps to bind to cholesterol, remove it from the body. So it packs a real punch.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to mention that actually doesn't involve the fibre, but it's become a bit of a superfood in the context of juice. A lot of people are drinking celery juice now. Probably with good sense, because if it's going to have those sorts of properties that may even be relevant for some quite serious illnesses, then it probably makes sense. We tend not to. Our juice is way up high on a shelf up there, which is difficult to reach. We don't juice very often. I do like it. I have juiced it and I like it, but I think it's a slightly acquired taste. But it might be worth trying.
Okay. Thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.